5年以前，每年都有几个业主被打死、被枪杀。
2个人按着我老公，电棍拿着，一个人就用枪直接指着我，然后他说：“你把钱拿出来。”我女儿当场就吓哭了。
然后呢，他有2把枪，一把是对着我们，一把是对着我女儿的头。
A curfew law in Philadelphia that was affecting Chinese restaurant owners in particular, given they could not stay open in the location in which they were at, and it was functioning as a discriminatory business practice. I thought it was a very fascinating piece because I didn't really know anything about it. I'm from New York, where Chinese restaurants are open quite late and have been that way for the entirety of my life. So seeing this happening in Philadelphia, I thought was a very a stark reminder that things are not the same everywhere, and that people have to constantly fight for their rights. And I thought that the backdrop of the restaurant owners, so many of them have left, like most immigrants, left a very dangerous situation from back home, or had to risk a lot, often their entire lives, to come here and build a new life in a place in which they do not know the language. I thought the narrative had a really great way of building how this story was a uniquely American story, and how the immigrant story and this entrepreneurial story built into here was a reflective of what should be the actual American ideal, and how this law was uniquely discriminating against them in a way that is unfortunately quite common in American culture. So I thought it was a very informative piece, a piece that built a lot of human emotion through the interviews and the subjects talking about their lives. I thought it was very emotive and powerful, and functioned as a very sort of inspirational experience.
In all honesty, this film was so exceptional, and it packed such a punch that watching it had me in tears. The way that it opens, I mean, it doesn't waste any time. You get right into it, and you start understanding what kind of horrors these Asian Americans are facing and what has happened to them. Everybody's story was just, I was like listening to one bad experience after another, and you just can't help but feel so sad. And just when you think, okay, there'll be some kind of good that comes from this, maybe it'll be, then the filmmakers hit you with that song that was done about the way to, it's such a horrible situation, but such smart filmmaking, because they kept me engaged, they made me care, and I wanted to know more. I wanted to know that each and every single one of those people were going to be okay. And I wanted to know that the law was overturned. And I was so glad to hear when it was.
You have all these firsthand reports from these Chinese immigrants who work in these restaurants in this Philadelphia area. And because of this association with crime, they've been forced legally to close these restaurants and not keep them open in the late night hours. So I'm born in Philadelphia, so I'm very familiar with these Chinese restaurants in these various neighborhoods. It also, because it is a place that is open late, could be subjected to crime, or people who are attracted to crime. But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because this restaurant is open, that crime is happening because this restaurant is open, especially because it's not the only late night restaurant that is open. You have late night pizza shops as well, and, late night fried chicken shops and things like that. And so the idea that these other places can be open, but not this one, is a great injustice. What this doc showed us is the process of how everyone came together, different community leadership banding with them, different organizations like the NAACP, for example, banding with them. And it was great to see that it was overturned and this injustice was righted. But it was really great to see the point of view of the people who were completely affected by this, and then also still get a point of view of the city and everything like that. And this was a very specific documentary targeting a very specific area and very specific group of people. And I felt that it was great in how it handled this, the specificity of it. Delicate in how it handled a lot of the race relations, and that could have, easily gone off within this documentary. Um, and just very adding, seeing the owners giving their stories added a very personal point of view to this documentary.
Seeing the blatant discrimination against Chinese Americans in this film and the victim blaming that they were subjected to by the US government was incredible, especially knowing that this was not very long ago that we had this blatant discrimination in our laws. And I loved this documentary interviewed so many Chinese Americans that went through very similar things. So many, showing how it's so many people that were held at gunpoint, robbed, arrested by the government, getting targeted on both sides. The fact that they found so many people that had the same story was really eye-opening and really sad. But I loved that we had a happy ending here and they were able to sue the government. And I loved, as we were seeing these protests, that we had this patriotic music behind it, showing that this is an inherently American story of Americans fighting for their rights and winning. So I thought this was an incredible film, very inspiring.
This is one more example of blatant discriminatory laws being fought over in a civil manner with rightful manifestations and protests. I love the quote they say, real success is the success of the community. I think it's true, but not a lot of people understand it, and some governments seem to forget it more often than not. I loved how this is an example as well of wisdom and strength from the multi-ethnic approach of coming together to solve an issue. It was very inspiring to hear the testimonials of people that got their lives back because this was an openly discriminatory regulation, and now everyone has the same level ground to pursue their own economic sustenance. So
there is something, like I said, there's something so powerful and so wonderful about getting to learn about this. And do I think that we've come a long way with prejudice and things like that? Sure. Do I think that there's still a long way to go? Absolutely. So I think the more that we learn about things like this that have happened in the past, the more we can take that knowledge, take that victory of, getting this law overturned and use that moving forward to help other laws get overturned, to help other situations get better, to, help other groups of people. And like I said, I think it's really important to continue to learn, to continue to expand